Hey, it's Captain Matt, Boater's Secret Weapon, here with another market update. Is it a buyer's market? Is the boat crash here? Well, let's talk about it. This is going to be a long video with a lot of details, and I'm going to answer those questions for you with data. The answer, I think, may surprise you, and will be a little more nuanced than what maybe you're hearing in other places. So let's just take a look at the most recent numbers that are out there. These are from October 22, so it's the most recent data that's released, because it takes time to compile it and to get it out. These were released on January 2023. If you look at the direction the industry is going, all propulsion aluminum boats are down year over year, 21%. If you look at fiberglass pontoons or outboards, the pontoon market's down just under 10%. The fiberglass outboard market, so center consoles, things like that, down 11%. Bow riders, cruisers, the stern drive market down 24, almost 25%. Yachts are down. Ski and wake boats down almost 10%. Jet boats just down a tick. So that was as of October. It seems like we're kind of on that same pace. Like things are declining from the record 2022. All indications from the marketplace. So let's take a look at what the industry is saying. So the National Marine Manufacturers Association released this in January. Record sales in 2021 resulted in expenditures of $56.7 billion. New powerboat retail sales normalized in 2022 with an estimated 250,000 units sold, 25% increase compared to 2008 to 2014. Not sure why they chose that time frame, but they did. Looking ahead to 2023, the NMMA said early indications point to continued strong demand and sales expected to match 2022 numbers. So the industry association is saying, hey, we expect that demand to stay at a reasonable level. I may not agree with that as we continue. So let's look at what are the dealers themselves saying. So again, this is as of October, the most recent data I could get my hands on. It's January 24th as I record this. So the green line indicates dealers saying, hey, our inventories are too low. The red is our inventories are too high. You can see too high is about 40%, too low is about 20%. Most people saying, hey, we're about where we want to be. But you can see from January of 2022, April 2022, up to October, that line has gone up, and they went from nobody has enough inventory to now, hey, it's probably getting more to normal levels, okay? Same thing on used boat inventory. The line continues to go up from January, April to October, with about 30% saying, we're too high, and about 40% saying we're too low. That's the pre-owned market all across North America. Now, when you look at the sentiment of dealers saying, hey, what do you expect the outlook to be? Since April of 2020, that line for the current conditions and the 3 to 5 year outlook has just been trending down. Now, during that whole time, they've been selling a crap load of boats, right? The 3 to 5 year outlook, a little bit, what do you see in the future? They are going to tend to think about election results and economies, things like that, demand, current conditions, what's actually happening on the ground right now. They're at a 20, which 50 is, hey, neutral. 50 is not excited, not disappointed, not discouraged. So a rating of 20 is, hey, we're kind of nervous about this. And the 3 to 5 year outlook is at a 30. Again, hey, we're not super excited about what's going on. We're somewhat unfavorable. So that's what the dealers are saying. And you can see where it's trended over the past 7-8 years or so, okay? Now, this is sort of the summation of what the dealers are saying out there. Concerns about the volatile economy and inflation were voiced frequently, along with complaints about high prices from the manufacturers. Quote, large price increases from the manufacturers and the high interest rates on recreational loans in 30 plus years were their two biggest gripes for dealers who seem to be speaking on behalf of most who commented negatively. So if you've watched previous videos like this, the market update, there's been sort of a, what's been their biggest concern? Quality of production, getting product in. The economy was a little bit of a concern, but now it's saying, hey, that volatile economy and inflation are serious things that we're thinking about, and why our outlook is, a 20 instead of that neutral 50. And huge price increases coming from the manufacturer has them concerned. We're going to do some math and talk about where I think prices are going and why later in this video. So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be an eye opener for a lot of people. what's going on in the economy as a whole? Well, if you look at the 12-month percentage change of the consumer price index, you can see that we had a huge spike from, we'll call that 2019, late 2019, 2020, up until, about, probably October, November of 2022. Since then, that's dropped down considerably. Gas prices having a big impact on that. Energy prices in general have had a significant impact, but that's encouraging, right? That inflationary pressure seems to be going down. And if you kind of do some reading, this was an article I found from Goldman Sachs, their economist at Goldman Sachs. The threat of the U.S. recession remains alive in 2023. The consensus estimate on probability of a meaningful downturn in the American economy in the next 12 months is 65%, according to Goldman Sachs research. So that's research of what are other economists saying. Okay. Now, David Merkel, I think is how you say it, Marisol, is the economist, one of the economists for Goldman. So he says our probability of recession over the next 12 months stands at 35%. So they're more excited. And here's why. They're less negative, I guess is the right way to say it. We think that a continued period of below potential growth can gradually rebalance supply and demand in the labor market and dampen wage and price pressures. So they're thinking that the work that the Fed's already done, I read the whole article, I'll summarize it for you, but that the work that the Fed's already done with raising rates, them probably ticking up the next 3 or so meetings, holding them steady or bringing them up just a touch more, that work, the supply chain kind of straightening out, supply and demand, getting back in line, which is exactly what we're seeing in the boating industry, right? We see the dealer saying our supply is a little bit higher than what we'd want. We hadn't seen that in years. So we'll see that recession still out there. Some people saying as high as 65% chance. Goldman saying it's about a 35% chance that it's going to happen. So hopefully that is the direction it's going to lean, is the recession won't really happen and will continue to improve. Again, we talked about gas prices going down. You can see that drop in fuel prices from over $4 a gallon in early in 2021 to now we're about three and just under 3.5. And again, it's a national average. So if you're in California, you're paying a lot more. I'm paying almost $2, $2.90 something here in the Carolinas. In South Carolina, we have low gas taxes. So if you look at the demand, the seasonally adjusted price index for the producers. So this is the raw goods coming in. This is where the supply chain slowed down, demand being super high, raw materials shot up. Now we're seeing the raw materials, the aluminum, the components, the plastic, the pieces, that stuff from raw material to component material that's not retail sale, all going into selling the boat and other products, has dropped significantly since January of last year. You can see it's starting to tick up just a little bit, but it's that big drop that makes me say, hey, that might be a very good thing, that prices aren't going to have that same inflationary pressure, and maybe the price of boats can come down, maybe not, we'll see. So the other thing, interest rates. We know the Fed raised interest rates. We know that the interest rates on boat loans have gone up from 4 or 5% to 7, 8%. 8.5 is the most recent that I've seen from a source I trust. But mortgage rates, they're up now from a low of 2.5, 3% for a 30-year, 15-year to 6.15 and 5.28 on a 15-year. So those have gone up. But look, they're starting to tickle back down. The Fed increase, all right, that's going to make the bond market kind of jump up based on the anticipation and what happens. And now things are starting to settle down, and hopefully we see those rates continue to come down. The expert opinion is that they'll probably level out a little bit. So we won't see them come down considerably, but we will see them level out and not continue to rise, assuming the Fed does what the bond market anticipates them to do, okay? That they don't make any unexpected changes. If you're in the market for a boat, grab the Boat Buyer's Toolkit. It's totally free, boatbuyerstoolkit.com. But what's happening with the consumer side? That's all what's happening at the macro level in the economy and in the side of the boat dealers. What are consumers doing? Well, if we go to our Google Trends and search boats for sale, you can see that what's happening is, hey, it's going down. It's as low as it's been. We are well under that 25 mark. So it's as low as it's been in 5 years. This is a 5-year trend. Everything was boosted in the pandemic boom. So it's drop from there, but it's not too low, knowing that we have the seasonal lows. What concerns me is this little uptick. Towards the end of January. Boat shows are just kicking off around the season, most of them being late January, February, and March. I like to see that tick be a little bit more up in the air. It's not bad. It's definitely going the right direction. The next few months will tell. New boat sales, again, that is down. About to pre-pandemic levels. That's about that same level as 2019, 2018 off season. But again, we're not seeing that jump up that I would like to see in this part of January. Maybe we'll see it in February. Maybe it's just a matter of the cold winters, and we'll start to see that. Keep an eye on that. Used boats, we're seeing about that same. Not a huge jump up, but we're seeing that trend go up. But we're also seeing it, lower than it's been in the last 2 years, more of 2019, 2018 levels. It seems to be about there. So not a significant amount. What's interesting is, I think, just like we saw the numbers of pontoons, center consoles, and wake boats, jet boats, they were under 10% decrease year to year at the numbers that we had. And you can see center consoles, you've got that jump up, a little tick down towards the end, but you've got that steeper jump. Pontoons for sale, you got about that same level. Wake boats, they're just not as many. So this graph is a little bit more erratic, because we don't have the same numbers that we do when we're looking new boats and used boats. That's a ton of searches. Wake boats is a much, 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 much smaller segment, although we started some wake boat videos on the channel. So that's what's going on with consumers, is we're seeing that seasonality uptick, but not as significant, not as sharp as we've seen in the past. Again, it's just January 24th, so that can pick up, and I expect it to significantly, just because of the seasonality. But again, if you've been watching these for a while, I've also done, what's the used demand look like? Are the supply look like? What's it look like on Boat Trader when we start searching for $10,000 to $75,000 boats, 200 miles from my zip code? February, we had 1,100 listings, okay, that met that criteria. Power boats, gas, used, 10,000 to 75,000, 200 miles from my zip code in the Carolinas. And you can do this in your area as well to kind of track what's going on. In April, we were just under 1,000. So same search, went down a little bit. In October 3rd, we were jumped up to 1,400, same search. And January 23rd, I did this yesterday, I was putting this together, 1,447. So from October, the end of the season, to January, to the start of the selling season, we're almost flat. So the number of boats listed out there on Boat Trader, by far the biggest source of boats in kind of the categories we're talking, we're not seeing a huge ramp up of people. That tells me we're not seeing a bunch of boats from October that are still on the market. There's certainly some, but we're not seeing a flood like a lot of people said. Hey, all these COVID buyers, they're going to realize boating's expensive. They don't have enough time to get on their boat. I don't see that reflected in the numbers. You see that from April to October, but you don't see it from October to January. And just, really just 300 boats. So what is that, about 30% increase from April, the heart of the selling season, where, boats are moving to October, the end of the season, where people are saying, I want to sell it before I have to winterize it, before I have to put it back into storage. And so I'm, that doesn't give me we're seeing a flood of boats on the marketplace like you're hearing from some people. Again, if you're buying a boat, you want a little bit more help, check out the First Time Boat Buyers Academy, firsttimeboatbuyer.com. But they put this price drop feature in. These are people that have dropped their pricing from when they've listed it. So they listed it at 50,000 and they haven't got any movement. So the assumption is they'll drop it down to 45,000 or 47,000. And Boat Trader will say, hey, these had a price drop. Well, in October, the first time I saw that feature and ran it, is we had 300 of the 1,400 boats had a price drop. Okay. What's the direction you expect it to go? For me, I was like, all right, we're going to see that number in the 400 or 500. We're going to see that go up. The reality is we only have 175 boats in that same parameter of those 1,400 that drop prices. That tells me that the used boats in the segment, they're either taking it off the market and deciding we're not selling, we're keeping it, or they're selling them and they're no longer on the listing, or they're saying, hey, we're going to continue to try to get these prices. We think they'll hold up, and we think we can get the price that we're asking for. But I was really shocked when I saw that 175 versus 300. I thought that price drop feature was going to show me a bunch more listings. Again, tells me that used boats are still moving pretty good. And the fact that the dealers are not as nervous about their used boat level of inventory compared to their new boat level of inventory says maybe the used market isn't going to see a significant price drop. We'll talk about that in a moment, so keep listening. What are the pressures that we felt on the supply chain? Well, the getting stuff and products in, I say we're done, but it's less of an issue. On our Sunday lives, we do every Sunday Eastern, 8:30 Eastern time. One of the regulars, Brock, said, hey, the C-Pro factory is right out my front door, or right out my door, and I can see they used to have hundreds of boats there that looked like they were waiting on engines, and they were the size that would be 250, 300, the 425, the new 450 that Yamaha has coming out. They appeared to be in that segment, and they were sitting there with no motors, shrink wrapped, ready to go. He said now that's down to 50 or so. So that supply chain is working its way out. We're hearing that from dealers getting inventory. We're hearing it from manufacturers that are saying, if you order a boat today, you can expect it in 6 to 8 to 10 weeks. That's pretty standard for the industry, from 10 years ago. So that, that's still out there, still could be an issue, but not as significant. And the motor specifically, we are still having, hey, we need to get quality craftsmen into our manufacturing facilities to build these boats, and the quality level inspection, because they're newer talent coming in. They haven't had that experience. They haven't been trained up. They're typically not as skilled coming in. So the quality issues, they still need to do a good job of quality control at the manufacturer, and the dealer picking up the slack and doing a good pre-delivery inspection, a PDI, running that boat to find any issues before you, the end consumer, get it. Dealers have been saying, man, some of these manufacturers, and it's brand specific, but some of these manufacturers are sending us boats that they clearly know aren't done, but they're shipping it to us and telling the consumer the boat's ready. And then we have to scramble to make the boat truly ready for the consumer and get all the options and get everything done properly. Some manufacturers better than others. And so pay attention to that. Find out from your dealer what your expectations are if you're ordering a boat. But even those are getting better and better as the supply chain continues to improve. So I wanted to look at what's the auto market. Unfortunately, in the boating world, when we sell 250,000 boats, new boats a year, well, the auto industry sells millions and millions and millions and millions. So we don't have the same data that they do. But what's happening on the car prices from retail at the dealership that they're selling and wholesale that they're paying and buying at the auction? Well, we're seeing a slight tick down from the high on the new cars, 31,000. This is average numbers we're talking about. Used cars 2 to 6 years old, 31,375 down to 28,375, and this was as of the end of December. So these numbers are pretty recent. A $3,000 dip on the auto side. On the wholesale side, about a $2,800 dip. Well, that's an indication that maybe we will see some price drops. I'm not sure that we're seeing it yet on Boat Trader. My gut tells me they're listing them higher, but there's a greater opportunity to negotiate, which we'll talk about in a little bit. What's the turn time? This is big in the dealership environment specifically, to see how fast from when we get a boat in to we sell it. That's the turn time. They want fast turn times. They want to get the boat in today, sell it tomorrow, and bring another boat in. That the more times they can turn, the more profitable they can be. Well, from June of 2022, when their turn times were at a low in the auto dealer space, this is from Black Book, we're now up to 46 days, and we got as high as 48, 49 days in November. So what's that tell us? That demand has slowed down and or supply has gone up, one and or the other. Same thing's happening in the boating industry. We've seen that demand has gone down from the Google Trends. We know supply has gone up based on walking into a dealership, seeing boat dealer or boat manufacturer lots that have fewer boats waiting on components. And that means the turn times are going to go more of a buyer's market trend, right? If you're a buyer in the RV, this is from December. This is the wholesale value decline for the second month in a row for motored vehicles. So we had talked about last one that, hey, we're not seeing the RVs, the ones with the motors, we're not seeing those dip down in value as much. We kind of saw a dip and then they climb back up, but now we're seeing them fall from November to December. Could be a little bit of seasonality if you look at the trend. That tends to happen, but that's a pretty significant dip from October to November. And then the travel trailers, you're seeing that since, what is that, July of 2022 to December has significantly dropped. And again, in the last episode of this in October, we talked about one of the reasons for that is the manufacturers were able to crank out travel trailers much faster because they didn't have the components. They didn't have to have the engines. They didn't have to have the chips. They needed plywood, the stove and the furniture, and some aluminum, and boom, they were off. The motor vehicles, they had the engines and the chip shortages that kept supply low, demand high, so prices up. This is, I think, more similar to the boating industry because we have motors, drives, and chips that we need. So, it's starting to see the tick down, but not as quickly as the RV travel trailers. Same thing, I think we'll be seeing in the boating industry, that we'll start to see those values come down. But again, you're going from 80,000 on average on wholesale down to just under 70,000. So, a $10,000 drop in the average price. So maybe we'll see that come to the boating industry. Let's hope so for you people that have been waiting on the sidelines to buy, and now you're ready to go. We'd also talked about aluminum prices, that there was a fear back in the April episode that we did, that there was a fear of aluminum prices going up. What's happened there? Well, they dropped down significantly. In our October update, I talked about how far they dropped from 3,500 down to just over 22,000. Well, now since October, it was almost like since I did that video, I'm sure I don't have any impact on the aluminum market, but we've jumped back up to $2,600. And this is the 25-year average. So you can kind of see we've gone up and down, but we're on that upward trend, which means, the aluminum blocks that Mercury uses, the aluminum for aluminum fishing boats and pontoons, all of the aluminum accessories, assuming this aluminum's going up, you kind of assume that the alloys that make up the 316, 306 stainless steel could also be on that trajectory, which is going to have a pressure on the prices going up, especially in those segments that use a lot of metal, aluminum specifically. So many manufacturers, they have already announced their price increases through Q4 2023. We're seeing those come into play. I'm going to show you some math on that, what I think is happening. Most manufacturers and models are normal 6 to 10 weeks delivery schedule. Again, the segmentation matters. So pontoons, center consoles, wake boats, jet boats, the demand isn't as slowed there. So those might be, hey, as we get further in the season, if we don't see the big slowdown in demand, those may get stretched out a little bit. But bow riders, cruisers, deck boats, stern drives specifically, that market is much weaker, had much more of a slowdown. I anticipate their inventory on the showroom floors that can meet your needs, gives you an opportunity to negotiate. And if you order, the delivery time should be a little quicker, with 6 to 8 weeks kind of being normal for a bow rider, deck boat, center console, pontoon, before you get too customized. You start getting more and more customized, and the higher the dollar amount go, over, let's say, 250, 300,000, now those are going to be a little bit more because they're more boutique builders, and their time frame is just longer, and they're still backed up. That really high end of the market is still backed up in production. Hopefully those boats get delivered, as we'll talk about. Hurricane boat sales will increase. Those checks are starting to come in. So some of the coastal markets, Southern Florida, the Gulf Coast, they'll travel to get their boats. Those are starting to hit right now. And just a side note, if you are in South Florida or in a hurricane zone, expect your insurance to go up if it hasn't already. Expect to potentially be dropped. If you're buying a boat in that market, expect much more extensive hurricane planning and being held accountable to that hurricane plan for your insurance to kick in. So if you said, my plan is to put that thing on a trailer and haul it inland, and you don't put that thing on a trailer and haul it inland, the insurance may say, I can't help you. You didn't follow the plan. So pay really close attention, you folks down in the Florida hurricane market, mid-Atlantic, Gulf Coast even. It's coming, and it's getting harder and harder, especially if you leave your boat in the water and you're not on a trailer, okay? All right. So what's happening on the consumer side? Well, when you look at a 5-year trend to the stock market, the S&P 500, you see, hey, we're in pretty good shape. We're up significantly, But when you dial in just a little bit more, if you look at a year, if you're looking at your portfolio as you put your taxes together and you're like, we're down from, about 4,500, we're down to just over 4,000 in the S&P. That's a significant dip to your potential net worth. Again, if you have $10 million in the market or in your portfolio, your net worth, it's less impactful to you than if you only have 500,000. 500,000 going to 400,000 is more emotionally charged than 10 million going to even 8 million. It's a bigger gap, but it's less impactful in their buying decisions. And then on the positive side, you drive in even more to 1 month, and we're seeing those increases. We're coming out of the end of the year where people are selling off to take their losses for playing the market and making their tax plays, and we're going up. Fairly common to see in the market, but a good trend. That's what we want to see. That has people saying, hey, my 500,000 just went to 550. I can pull that money out and pay cash for a boat because rates are a little bit higher. So I talked about the math, and people say, hey, we're going to see pricing go way down. And then you hear manufacturers saying, we're raising pricing, every quarter through Q4. Part of that is because the producer price index, that PPI index, was up and then it's starting to come down. Well, they're still getting components and paying prices on that upward swing. The down hasn't quite hit. I assume it'll hit later this year. So they're raising their prices because their expensive are going up. In 2022, we did see them raising prices, but I think what happened is the prices were going up higher than they were increasing them. And this is what happened on a deal for a boat. So let's look at the whole picture. Let's say, now these numbers, the percentages aren't right. This is more a concept for you to get because I think it's interesting. Manufacturer cost to build the boat, let's say is $85,000. They sell that boat to the dealer for $100,000, the wholesale price, right? The cost to the dealer. The MSRP is set for $135,000. So there's a $35,000 profit in there at MSRP. In 2022, the manufacturers weren't putting any incentives out there, so that number is zero. No rebates. There was no extras from the manufacturers. The dealer maybe discounted $5,000. Maybe they didn't discount at all, but let's say they discounted $5,000 because you used the magic money saving method in the First Time Boat Buyers Academy. The sales price then was $130,000. So at $130,000, the dealer's gross profit. They've got expenses, they got to pay the lights, they got to pay the salesperson, they've got insurance, they've got rent, they've got all that stuff. But on that deal, their gross was $30,000. The manufacturer sold it for $85,000 or sold it for $100,000, billed it for $85,000. So their profit was $15,000. Okay. That manufacturer profit has been lower, I think, boat to boat. Now, they maybe had some efficiencies that they were able to produce boats quicker. But for that boat, that's lower than traditional. The dealer profit was higher than traditional. 30% margin is pretty high, although they were getting it in times. Now, in 2023, and here's the mindset, is the manufacturer saying, our prices are going through the roof, but we can't raise prices, that quickly. We're going to do what we can. We're going to stair step so we aren't losing clients. But they took a little bit of hit in their profit margins. The dealers, on the other hand, weren't having to discount as much. They were selling much closer or at MSRP, over MSRP in some situations, and the dealers' margins were significantly higher 2021, 2022. 2023 rolls around. Supply chain's getting improved, so manufacturers are able to get the boats to the dealers. Demand has gone down, so there's less opportunity. So let's say that same $85,000 boat cost the manufacturer $85,000 to build. Their wholesale price is going up to the dealer. Let's say they jump up to $110,000. The MSRP is going to go up because of that. Let's say $147,000. Currently, in most situations, we're going to talk about this in a second, the manufacturers still aren't offering wholesale incentives. Some are, but most of the market, they're not. They might be doing a boat show incentive specifically at the boat show for that dealer, but you're not seeing them advertised on their websites very much right now. Again, January 24th, this is going to change, I think. Dealer discounts. Last year, the dealers didn't have to discount unless you negotiated real well. Now, they're going to have to do more traditional discounting. So they discount, let's say, $17,000. So the sales price is still $130,000. Okay. The manufacturer is now making another 10 grand and the dealer is making less. This is the math I think that's going to be going on. The total profit in the deal is 42,000. The total profit last year in the deal, dealer manufacturer, is 45,000. So the profits are going to be going down as a whole for the industry. It's going to be differentiated. It's going to be divided up different from the dealer and the manufacturer, I believe. I think the manufacturers are raising their wholesale prices to their dealers because they're saying, last year, you guys made a crap load of money and our prices were skyrocketing and you got all pissy every time we tried to raise prices, saying that the buyers weren't going to stand for it. And we didn't want to make our buyers upset, so we did the best we could. We didn't make as much money as we could, but you greedy suckers made way too much. So now we're going to turn the tides and we're going to make a little bit more, and we're going to make the dealer eat the discounts in most cases, up to, I believe, a certain point. I don't know what that point is. It's going to be different segment by segment. It's going to be different premium, mid-tier, and value. I think it'll happen quicker on the value side, that the manufacturers say, crap, we are in a position where our 2024 orders may be less than what we need or want them to be. And so what we're going to do is we're going to offer an incentive in the form of a manufacturer rebate. So the numbers will work out like this. We're going to use the 2023 example, $85,000 cost of producing the boat, selling it to the dealer for $110, MSRP of $147, no incentive. That's how the numbers shake out. If the inventory levels are higher than what they're comfortable with as we get further into the season, the manufacturers are going to say, okay, we're going to put some rebate money towards it, and we're going to take a little bit of a hit out of our profit, because that money truly does come from the manufacturer. But what you may not know is that $5,000 isn't cut as a check to the dealer. That rebate incentive is discounted on them ordering another boat for the 2024 season. It's how manufacturers ensure that the dealers are continuing to do business with them, continuing to orders at the level they want. And so it's tied to a discount on a boat that they order for that following season, if that makes sense. So what's going to happen is, if we see inventory levels too high, demand too low, you start seeing those manufacturers incentive. Now you know, hey, it is truly a buyer's market for this segment. And is the crash here? If they're a couple $100, a couple $1,000, no. If you're seeing big dollar amounts on those manufacturer incentives, you know, you typically on a $100,000 boat, you might see a $5,000 rebate. That's in the ballpark of normal. If you see that number going 10, 15,000, now, oh crap, you know, maybe we do have that boat crash here. But that's what I'd be looking for as we hit. So what are we seeing in the market? Well, this is what I predict. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm going based on kind of gut instincts, knowing the market, doing, as you can see, a crap load of research. So it's based on some insight, but by no means am I a crystal ball owner. Supply is going to outweigh demand slightly. I don't think it's going to be significant, but I do think at the end, as we get to Labor Day, there's still going to be a number of 2023s on the market as 2024s come out, meaning that there's going to be some opportunities to buy some leftovers and some bigger discounts. That's where the manufacturer's rebates would be focused on those 2023 model years late in the season, okay, to move those so they can order a 2024. MSRPs, I think, are going to continue to increase on new boats through next year's model, the 2024 models, which start arriving, by the way, in August, typically. Some dealers were getting 2022 boats as late as October and November, which is 3 months late. So that's going to happen. I believe if we see that producer price index continue to drop down, then we might see that increases level out. But the MSRP, remember, I'm talking MSRP prices. That's the price that they show to you, the consumer, saying this is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. As we showed in the numbers, you can go back to it. If you go to the numbers, you can kind of see that that manufacturer's suggested retail price isn't the price that I'm paying. So it's just sort of a data point. No fire sale discounts expected, but more discounts, and again, by segment. So pontoons, jet boats, wake boats, and center consoles, especially under, let's say, 26, 28 feet and under on the center consoles, you're going to see fewer discounts. but they're still going to be there. But I think they're going to be fewer than those other segments. Used boat prices return to a more normal depreciation levels, which means I buy a 5-year-old boat for 50 grand. I'm going to have to sell it for 45 and take my depreciation hit versus 2 years ago, I bought that $50,000 boat and I sold it for 52 or 55. That is no longer the case. They're going to start normalizing depreciation. Interest rates on boat loans are going to stabilize at that current higher level. So, 7.5, 8, 8.5, based on where the Fed is expected to go and based on where mortgage market rates have gone. Although they're not directly correlated, it gives you an indication. Future impact to pricing. Continued long-term inflation means higher prices on new boats. It doesn't look like that's what we're seeing. So if we can continue to see that lowering of inflation, maybe we'll see a flattening of new boat prices. Lots of buyers walking away from ordered boats equals more dealer discounts. So we know the pipeline of ordered boats that haven't been delivered yet, it shrunk by 80% from last year to this year. Those boats have all gotten delivered in the last 6 months, or a big chunk of them. But now that interest rates have gone up, will we see buyers that we're going to finance say, I'm out. I'm going to walk away from my deposit, and that boat's now was sold, now's back on the market. If we see a lot of that, we could see dealers having to discount those boats more. Overproduction of new boats as demand slows, more rebates, more dealer discounts. I anticipate the manufacturers to ramp up their building like they were still trying to produce the demand from 2 years ago. If that happens, the faster they do that production, the more likely we'll see rebates, the more likely we'll see more discounts. If they can control themselves and match the production to the demand, very, very difficult thing to do. They're trying to grow their market share. They don't want to not have enough boats to sell, so they're almost always going to produce on the higher end. But do they go way high, or do they hit that target pretty well? I don't know. It's something to watch out for, and it's going to be segment by segment, manufacturer by manufacturer. We also have boat shows back. Will boat shows being back across the country, other than the handful that are canceled forever for right now, could that be an increase to demand, to buyers? I want to buy, but I need to go to the boat show and actually get on these boats. I haven't been able to walk into a dealership and inspect the boats for 2.5, 3 years. The boat show, is that going to pull some buyers out of the market that have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for prices to get better? This might be the time, because I think there is opportunity. If you've been thinking, you're in a much better position as a buyer than you were even 6-8 months ago. Okay. I talked about rebates. When you start seeing rebates, now I looked at probably 30 different major manufacturers' websites, and I found Harris Pontoons. I found Heyday Boats, both Brunswick company, Lund and Crestliner, both Brunswick companies, offering rebates. Is that because they're saying, hey, we want to maintain our market share and our brand, and we think that if we offer these rebates, we can pull them out at the boat show? Like I said, boat shows are just back. Maybe it's a strategy related to growing market share versus supply demand. Either way, there's rebates out there. Are other brands going to follow? Bennington did not have one listed on their website, but I've heard from boat show attendees that they're offering them at the show. That's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to be non-advertised boat show rebates, manufacturer by manufacturer, that we're not going to wholesale put it out for everybody, but at the Cleveland Boat Show, at the Charlotte Boat Show, at the Miami Boat Show, we're going to put these incentives in place to compete against the others, try to make the sale what we can. You're also seeing the incentives from Mercury, Yamaha, the engine manufacturers that are given our standard warranty is 3. We're going to extend it to 5. We're going to extend it to 7, whatever the case may be. And we're going to do that for free. It's very inexpensive for them to offer that because they build good quality products. And that's a common boat show incentive. Yamaha Boats is offering, they brought out their interest rate buy down. So for boats as low as $499 for 72 months on the financing. We know rates are 7.5, 8, 8.5. And they're saying, instead of giving a cash incentive, we're going to give a financing incentive, because we know our buyers are more payment conscious than price conscious. And $2,000 to buy down the rate is going to have a bigger impact on the monthly payment over 72 months than a $2,000 price discount. So that's a common offer for them. They offer that when I was selling Yamaha 10 years ago. So that's the way I see the market going. So my advice, 1, get that first time, that toolkit. It's totally free. Set your budget and your boating budget Figure out what the right boat looks like. Visit the marinas, the ramps, the dealers. Likely boats will be in stock now. I forgot to change that from last update, but there should be, in most cases, the boat that you're looking at buying should be on the showroom floor and you'll be able to inspect it, which is nice. Know exactly what you want. Inspect slowly and completely. The boat's not yours until you put up real money. Even in this market, when we're more of a buyer's market, a boat can still be sold out from under you if you haven't put down a deposit to lock that boat in with the dealer. Just be aware of that. Everything that you do should be contingent on a sea trial or a demo. Remember, you're taking a big risk if you buy a boat in the winter and you don't have a test drive. That could be, I put my deposit on now, but I'm not signing paperwork until we can run this boat. Most dealers in colder climates understand that. If you're ordering a boat, again, they should be in place. They should be at the dealer. So the boat setter and Get My Boat and looking at other clients' boats is going to be less of a necessity, but still there if you need it. Completely inspect the boats before taking delivery and writing the check. Remember, I said we're not having as many of those quality issues, but we still have less skilled, less tenured labor building the boats, making some silly mistakes. The production process isn't as frantic. They're building it from A, B, C, D, E in order like they should be. So less things are getting forgotten with a component being missing. So we're going to skip that step and we're going to go from C to R. Now they're going in order, which means less mistakes. And then there's opportunity to negotiate. Use the magic money saving method you'll find in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy and negotiate. If you negotiate, there will be savings to be had for sure. If you're buying used, again, basically the same thing. Get your financing approved up front so that you're ready to go, whether it's a local credit union, whether it's one of our preferred lenders that you can get on the channel. You get that in the toolkit in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy. Negotiate. That magic money saving method, buying from a private individual, buying from a dealer will save you, certainly hundreds, likely thousands, and probably much more. Do the sea trial and the demo. Do not buy a used boat without putting in the water and running under load. Now, how many times I say that, I still get people emailing me, I found this boat, it's only 2 years old. Do you think I could buy it without putting it on the water? No, don't do it. Don't do it. You're taking a huge risk. I know the water's frozen. I know you can't run it now. Be patient and run that boat so you don't make a very, very expensive mistake. Inspect it completely before writing the check. Again, that First Time Boat Buyers Academy, it's got the magic money saving method in it, firsttimeBoatBuyer.com. If you're buying new, they're likely going to have stock. Buy from your local dealer with the brand that you like. We talked about, if you watch my best and worst videos, we've got them on bow riders, deck boats, cruisers, center consoles, pontoons, wake boats. We've got them on virtually everything. Find the brand you like and then choose based on the best dealer. Look for discounts and negotiate even more. There's going to be discounts to be had, okay? If you're buying used, again, same thing. There's still some turds on the market. Remember Hurricane Ian? Those boats are starting to show up in markets that you may not expect. Be on the lookout. People that maybe didn't maintain their boat this time of year, people that didn't winterize their boat and try to sell it to you. No, it's still cold out. I just winterized it. I don't want you to run it. Well, you want to take the chance that they didn't winterize it properly and something's broken. See what I can get prices. They're still out there. I think it's still the pandemic, and I bought this boat for 50. I'm going to try to sell it for 55. They're still out there, so know your market. Do that search I did on Boat Trader for what you're looking for in the radius that you would go, even bigger maybe, and kind of see what the prices do. Be patient, be ready, willing, and able to act quick if it's right. In the used boat market, it's always about acting quick when you find the right one, because that boat's going to be gone. There's only one of them, and that boat can be gone with one other person making a phone call. It's not as frantic as it was, but still, get ready. When you're ready to buy, make your moves quick. Have everything lined up. Inspect it slowly, demo it, but then get it off the market and buy it quick. Once you've done those things, pay attention to how long boats have been on the market. Use that price drop feature. Did they have a recent price drop? Oh, they're more motivated. The boat, I saw this 6 months ago when I was searching. I did a podcast with a guy in somewhere in the mountains, Idaho maybe, Colorado. But he was saying they were searching. I'm like, all right, start looking now. And if you see the same boat in January as you see in May, guess what? They're motivated to sell that boat, and there's discounts there. So negotiate. There'll likely be price concessions. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a share to your friends looking to buy the boat. Grab that toolkit. It's totally free. And remember, life truly is better on a boat.